Marcus Hale sat in the cockpit of his small reconnaissance spacecraft. The hum of the engines the only sound he could hear. The stars stretched endlessly before him, each one a tiny point of light in the darkness of space. It had been a quiet mission, a simple journey to chart unclaimed sectors of the galaxy, and he had expected nothing more than routine readings and empty space. Yet as he adjusted the navigation panel, something went terribly wrong. The ship shuddered violently. Lights flickered. Marcus's heart jumped. He reached for the controls, but the instruments were unresponsive. Before he could react, a strange force pulled the spacecraft into a swirling vortex of colors he had never seen before. The stars stretched and twisted around him. The instruments screamed with warnings he could not read fast enough. Then, with a sudden jolt, the ship landed roughly on solid ground. Dust and small stones kicked up against the hull. Marcus struggled to catch his breath. He opened the cockpit hatch and stepped out, taking in the landscape. He had landed on a world unlike anything he had ever imagined. Towering crystalline trees glimmered in shades of blue and violet, their leaves like shards of glass reflecting light in dazzling patterns. Floating islands hovered above the ground, casting soft shadows on the glowing rivers below. The air shimmered with energy, and Marcus could feel a hum beneath his feet, almost as if the planet itself was alive. He took cautious steps forward, scanning for life. That's when he saw them, figures moving in the distance, tall and graceful, yet clearly not human. Their skin shimmered slightly under the alien light, and they moved with a fluid elegance Marcus had never witnessed. Marcus instinctively ducked behind a crystalline boulder. His heart pounded in his chest. Who were they? Friendly or hostile? Before he could make a decision, a sudden beam of light shot from above, bathing him in a soft glow. He froze as a figure stepped forward, taller than the others, regal, commanding, yet with a presence that was strangely calming. This was Lynara, the alien queen. Her eyes, large and luminous, studied Marcus with curiosity, and for a moment he felt a strange connection, as if she could see his thoughts. "You are not of this world," she said, her voice melodic and clear, though he understood every word perfectly, a gift of the planet's natural telepathy. I'm Marcus Hale. I come from Earth," he replied, his voice steady despite the fear creeping in. "I did not mean to come here." Lynara's gaze softened slightly. "Accidents can change destinies," she said. "You have arrived at a time when my people face great challenges. Perhaps your presence is not a mistake." Before Marcus could respond, a sudden noise erupted from the forest behind him. A creature, massive and covered in shimmering scales, emerged from the trees. Its eyes glowed with a strange light, and it moved with surprising speed. Marcus instinctively stepped back, but Lynara moved forward gracefully. She raised her hand and the creature froze, tilting its head as if listening to her command. Marcus watched in awe. You control it?" he asked. "I do not control. We communicate," she said simply. "But you are not safe here. Come with me." With cautious steps, Marcus followed Lynara. She led him through the crystalline forest, moving quickly yet silently. Along the way, he noticed that the plants seemed to respond to her presence, glowing brighter as she passed and soft breezes swirling around her. He felt a mixture of fear and amazement. Everything about this world was alive, aware, and connected, and Lynara was at the center of it all. Finally, they reached a clearing where a group of her people waited. They were similar to her, elegant and tall, their eyes reflecting the same luminous quality. They did not approach Marcus at first, but their gazes were curious, assessing. Marcus realized he was the first human many of them had ever seen. Lynara spoke to them in their melodic language, and though Marcus could not understand the words, he could sense the meaning. The tension in the air eased, and some of them stepped forward cautiously. Marcus tried to bow politely, but Lynara motioned for him to stand tall. "You are different," she said softly, noticing his hesitation, "but difference can be strength." As Marcus adjusted to the situation, Lynara explained the challenges her people faced. A rival faction, jealous of her leadership and the prosperity of her realm, threatened to attack. Marcus listened carefully. Even though he was a visitor in this world, he could feel the urgency in her voice, the weight of responsibility she carried. Suddenly the ground trembled beneath their feet. The same creature that had appeared earlier emerged again, this time moving closer to the clearing. Marcus's instincts kicked in. Without thinking, he reached for a piece of alien technology Lynara had handed him. a small device with glowing symbols. Following her silent guidance, he activated it, sending a pulse of light toward the creature. It paused, then backed away, obeying the subtle commands Linara transmitted. "You have courage," Linara said, her voice both approving and surprised. Few outsiders can respond without fear. Marcus swallowed, feeling both relief and awe. He had survived the encounter, but more importantly, he realized something he could not ignore. He was no longer just a visitor. Somehow by accident he had become part of this world, entwined in the fate of an alien queen and her people. As night fell, the clearing glowed with the soft light of the crystalline trees. Marcus and Linara sat together, the strange creatures of the forest now calm around them. Marcus could see that she was not just a leader but a guardian of her people, wise and strong in ways he had never encountered before. He wondered how he, a human from Earth, could ever repay the trust she had shown him, or how he could ever hope to understand the complexity of this world. Linara looked at him with quiet intensity. "Tomorrow your journey will begin in earnest," she said. "The choices you make may change the future for all of us. Are you ready?" Marcus nodded, though he was unsure of anything. Deep inside, however, he felt a spark of determination. Whatever this world demanded, whatever dangers lay ahead, he would face them. By accident, yes, he had arrived here, but he would not leave without understanding why. The first night on the alien world passed quietly, yet Marcus knew sleep would be restless. The stars above were unlike any he had seen, and the soft glow of the forest below whispered of secrets he was only beginning to comprehend. The human warrior had arrived by chance, but fate had already begun weaving his story with that of the alien queen. And so, Marcus Hale's extraordinary journey began, not as a conqueror, not as a hero, but as a visitor who would soon discover that courage, trust, and understanding could change destinies in ways no one could predict. The first light of dawn spread across the alien landscape, casting soft violet and blue reflections from the crystalline trees. Marcus Hale woke to the strange hum of the planet, a gentle vibration that ran through the ground beneath him. The night had been long, filled with thoughts of what had happened and what might come next. He had survived an encounter with creatures he could barely understand, and he had met an alien queen whose presence was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Linara was already awake, sitting nearby, her eyes scanning the forest. Marcus watched her for a moment. She seemed so calm, so in control of everything, yet there was an air of tension about her. He realized that even someone so powerful had worries and responsibilities heavier than anything he had faced on Earth. "Good morning, Marcus," Linara said, her voice soft but commanding. "We have little time to waste." "The threats to my people are growing," Marcus nodded, standing carefully. His body still ached from the crash landing, and his mind raced with questions. "I want to help," he said simply. "I may be human, but I can do something." Linara studied him for a long moment. "Courage alone is not enough," she said. "You must understand our ways. You must learn quickly if you are to survive, and if you are to help us." For the next several hours, Marcus followed her through the alien forest. She showed him how to read the natural signs of the land, the color of the glowing rivers, the subtle movement of the trees, even the whispers in the wind that indicated the presence of life. Marcus listened carefully, absorbing every detail. The lessons were difficult and many times he stumbled, but Linara never raised her voice. Her patience was steady, and he began to respect her not just as a leader but as a teacher. As they walked, Linara told him more about her world. The planet was home to many species, each unique and each bound by delicate rules of coexistence. Her people had thrived for centuries, guided by wisdom and harmony, but not all were content with her leadership. A rival faction sought to take power, believing that control should be theirs. Marcus realized that the danger he sensed the night before was not just from the creatures, but from beings who could plan, deceive, and betray. "Your people on Earth do not understand what it is like to be a leader of an entire civilization," Linara said as they crossed a field of glowing flora. "Every decision can mean life or death for thousands. Every mistake can be costly," Marcus nodded. "I can't imagine that. On Earth, even battles feel small in comparison. But I want to understand. I want to help." Linara's expression softened slightly. "Then you will have opportunities. But you must prove yourself, not just with strength, but with wisdom and heart." Their journey took them to a hidden valley where a small group of Linara's allies waited. These beings were different from the ones Marcus had seen before. They were taller, with translucent skin that reflected the soft light of the alien sun, and their eyes glowed with a gentle intelligence. When they saw Marcus, they hesitated. The presence of a human among them was strange, even unsettling. Linara stepped forward. "He is not a threat," she said. "He comes to help. He has already shown courage in the face of our dangers." Some of the allies relaxed, though others remained wary. Marcus bowed politely. "I only want to help," he said, hoping his sincerity showed. The day passed as Marcus assisted with small tasks, learning about alien tools and simple defensive strategies. He quickly realized that much of the technology relied not on raw power, but on understanding natural energies and connections. For Marcus, it was both confusing and fascinating. He fumbled at first, activating devices incorrectly, but Linara guided him patiently. Slowly, he began to understand how even small gestures of attention and care could have powerful effects. By midday, Linara decided it was time to test his skills. She led him to a small clearing, where a simulation of a hostile creature appeared, a holographic projection, but lifelike enough to test reflexes and decision-making. Marcus's first attempts were clumsy, but with guidance, he began to anticipate the creature's movements, learning to work with the environment rather than just reacting. "You are learning quickly," Linara said, watching him. "But remember, strategy is more than fighting. Understanding your enemy, your allies, and the land itself is the true strength." Marcus felt a mixture of pride and determination. Every mistake was a lesson, and every lesson brought him closer to understanding this world. For the first time, he began to feel that his accidental arrival was not a mistake at all. Perhaps this strange journey had a purpose beyond survival. Later, as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the valley, Linara and Marcus walked together along a glowing river. The water sparkled, reflecting the alien sky, and the gentle hum of the planet seemed almost like a song. "Do you ever wonder," Marcus asked, "why someone like me would end up here? Out of all places in the galaxy, why this one?" Linara paused, gazing at the river. "Perhaps destiny has many paths," she said. "Sometimes those who arrive unexpectedly bring the balance we need. Perhaps your presence here is meant to change not just your life, but the lives of many others." Marcus considered her words. He had never thought of destiny before. On Earth, life seemed simple and predictable. But here in this alien world, everything was new, and every choice seemed to carry weight beyond his imagination. Suddenly, a faint signal echoed across the valley, a warning from one of Linara's scouts. The rival faction had made a move, sending a small group to test the defenses of her territory. Marcus's heart quickened. This was no longer a simulation. It was real. The test of courage and understanding that Linara had prepared for him was about to begin in earnest. Linara turned to him. "Stay close. Watch carefully. Act only when necessary. Your role is not to fight recklessly, but to support wisely. Are you ready?" Marcus nodded firmly, feeling a strange calm settle over him. The fear and uncertainty were still there, but now mingled with purpose. He had arrived by accident, but he knew he could no longer be a mere observer. He was part of this world now, and the path he walked with Linara was only beginning. The alien sun set, painting the sky in streaks of violet and gold. Marcus and Linara moved toward the approaching threat side by side. He felt the first stirrings of a bond, not just of necessity, but of trust, respect, and shared destiny. By accident, Marcus had stepped into a world full of mystery and danger. But as he followed Linara through the glowing forests and across the shimmering rivers, he realized that accidents sometimes led to the most extraordinary journeys, and this journey, he understood, would change him forever. The morning air on the alien world was crisp and full of unfamiliar scents. Marcus Hale followed Linara as they prepared for the journey ahead. The events of the previous day had shown him that courage alone was not enough. He needed understanding, patience, and trust. And for the first time, he realized he genuinely wanted to help Linara and her people. Their path led through a dense forest of crystalline trees that sparkled in shades of green and blue. The forest seemed alive, responding to their presence. Marcus noticed how Linara moved with ease, almost as if she were part of the land itself. He tried to imitate her, moving slowly, observing and listening to the subtle hum of the forest. It was exhausting but fascinating. "We must reach the Valley of Allies by nightfall. Lenara explained. There we will find friends who can assist us in protecting the realm. But the journey is dangerous. The terrain is difficult and not all creatures are friendly. Marcus nodded. I will follow your lead, he said. Just tell me what to do. Lenara smiled faintly. Do not only follow my lead. Learn to see for yourself. Observation is the first step to survival. They walked for hours, crossing rivers that glowed faintly under their feet, and climbing hills that seemed to float slightly above the ground. Marcus began to notice details he had missed before. How the light shifted depending on the angle of the crystals, how the plants bent subtly to allow passage, and how small creatures scurried quietly around them. Each observation helped him feel more connected to this world, and slowly, the fear he had felt on his first day began to fade. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from above. Marcus froze, and Lenara placed a hand on his shoulder. From the branches of a nearby tree, a small group of alien scouts emerged. They were armed with tools and devices Marcus did not recognize, but their expressions were cautious rather than hostile. Lenara stepped forward. They are here to test us, she whispered. Do not make sudden movements. Marcus nodded and stood still, feeling the tension rise in his chest. The scouts circled them, speaking in a soft, melodic language that Marcus could not understand. Lenara's eyes closed briefly, and she responded with a few words. The scouts relaxed, their weapons lowering. One stepped forward and offered a small crystal to Marcus. You have done well, Lenara said, translating the meaning. They recognize your courage and willingness to learn. Marcus accepted the crystal carefully. It felt warm in his hands, almost like it carried energy. He realized that in this world, recognition and trust were shown in ways he had never imagined. As they continued, Marcus began to understand that the journey was not just about reaching the valley. It was about learning the rhythms of the land and the creatures who lived there. Each challenge taught him patience and observation. He was no longer simply a human visitor. He was becoming a participant in this strange and beautiful world. By mid-afternoon, they reached a wide plain filled with tall golden grass that swayed even without wind. The view was breathtaking, but Marcus sensed danger. His instincts, honed from years of training on Earth, told him that they were being watched. Stay alert, Lenara warned. We are entering territory controlled by rivals. They may try to stop us. Marcus felt his heart quicken. He had faced threats before, but never in a place so strange, so alive, so unfamiliar. The ground seemed to vibrate beneath their feet, and shadows moved just beyond the reach of their vision. Without warning, a group of rival scouts appeared, their figures tall and menacing. Marcus's first instinct was to raise his weapon, but Lenara placed a hand on his arm. Wait, she said softly. Do not act without understanding. Marcus hesitated, then slowly lowered his weapon. Lenara stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. She spoke in her melodic language, and to Marcus's surprise, the rival scouts stopped and listened. After a tense moment, the group backed away, leaving a clear path forward. You see? Lenara said, smiling faintly. Strength alone is not always the answer. Understanding and patience can achieve what force cannot. Marcus nodded, feeling a deep respect for her wisdom. He realized that the greatest lessons he could learn on this journey were not about combat, but about connection, trust, and strategy. As night approached, they reached the edge of the Valley of Allies. The view was astonishing. Crystalline structures rose from the ground, glowing softly under the twin moons of the planet. Small groups of alien beings moved through the valley, some curious, some wary. Lenara turned to Marcus. We must approach carefully. Not all who live here are our friends. We must show respect and humility, not force. Marcus followed her lead, stepping lightly across the glowing terrain. They were greeted by a few leaders, their eyes reflecting both caution and curiosity. Lenara introduced Marcus as a human warrior who had come by accident but had shown courage and a willingness to learn. The leaders studied him for a long moment. Marcus felt their scrutiny but did not flinch. Finally, one nodded and the others followed. You are welcome here, the leader said, but your presence must honor the valley and its people. Trust must be earned. Marcus bowed respectfully. He had faced tests before, but this one felt different. It was not about strength or skill, but about character and integrity. He understood that if he could earn the trust of these beings, he could help Lenara protect her people. As night fell, Marcus and Lenara were invited to stay in a small, glowing structure in the valley. The walls shimmered softly, and the floor pulsed gently under their feet. Marcus marveled at how peaceful and safe the place felt. despite the dangers that lurked beyond its borders. Sitting together, Linara spoke quietly. "You are learning quickly, Marcus. You see not just with your eyes but with your mind. That is what makes you valuable to us." Marcus smiled faintly. "I want to help. I don't know why I ended up here, but I know that leaving is no longer an option. I feel like I belong. Somehow." Linara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Sometimes the greatest journeys begin by accident. You have discovered courage, patience, and understanding in a world that challenges everything you knew. That is why your presence matters." Marcus felt a sense of purpose he had never known. He had come from Earth by chance, but he realized that destiny was not always a straight path. Sometimes it led to places and people you could never have imagined, and sometimes it required courage, wisdom, and trust to make the right choices. As he lay down to rest that night, Marcus thought about the day's lessons. He had learned patience, observation, and the power of understanding over force. He had begun to earn the trust of beings far different from himself, and he had begun to see the value in working alongside Linara. The alien world was beautiful and dangerous, filled with mysteries yet to be discovered. Marcus knew that the journey ahead would test him in ways he could not imagine, but he also knew that he was no longer alone. He had an ally, a teacher, and a guide in Linara, and for the first time, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. By the glow of the valley and under the watchful eyes of its inhabitants, Marcus Hale understood that his accidental arrival had set him on a path that would change not only his life, but the lives of many others, and he was determined to see that path through no matter where it led. The morning air was crisp as Marcus Hale and Linara prepared to leave the safety of the Valley of Allies. Today was the day they would confront the rival faction threatening Linara's realm. Marcus felt a mix of determination and anxiety. He had learned much about this alien world, its people and its subtle rules, but the challenge ahead would test everything he had learned. Linara moved with quiet confidence, her every step radiating authority. Marcus followed closely, paying attention to the environment and the alien creatures around them. The forest seemed to sense their purpose, the crystalline trees glowing softly in response to Linara's presence. "They are clever," Linara said, breaking the silence. "They have studied my people and our defenses, but they underestimate what can be accomplished through strategy, not just force." Marcus nodded. "I understand. We must be careful, think ahead, and act together." As they approached the outskirts of the rival faction's territory, Marcus noticed subtle traps, small energy fields that could confuse or block intruders, and mechanical devices hidden among the glowing rocks. He felt a surge of respect for Linara's rivals. They were intelligent and capable, but that also made them predictable to those who could read the environment carefully. Linara stopped at the edge of a small hill overlooking the rival base. The structures were unlike anything Marcus had seen before, built from a combination of crystal and metal, glowing faintly with internal energy. Patrols moved along the perimeter, alert but not expecting intruders from this direction. "We will approach quietly," Linara whispered. "Our goal is not just confrontation. We must uncover their plans and prevent harm to my people." Marcus felt a thrill of responsibility. He had trained for combat and strategy on Earth, but this was different. Here, observation and understanding were just as important as skill with tools or weapons. He followed Linara carefully, stepping lightly over glowing grass and around crystalline outcrops. As they neared the main structure, Marcus noticed a hidden entrance, a small tunnel partially concealed by a crystal wall. Linara led him inside. The tunnel was narrow, but it allowed them to move unseen. Marcus marveled at how naturally she navigated the alien architecture. She knew every curve, every shadow, every sound. Inside, the air hummed with energy. Marcus could feel the tension building. They were close to discovering the rival faction's plan. Linara motioned for him to pause. Ahead, through a crystalline barrier, they could see a group of the rival leaders discussing their strategy. Marcus realized that these beings were not only dangerous physically, but also intelligent and cunning. Linara turned to him. "Remember what you have learned. Patience and understanding are your greatest allies." Marcus nodded, focusing on observing every detail. He watched the rival leaders examine holographic maps and discuss energy resources. It became clear that they intended to cut off Linara's access to critical supplies, weakening her position and forcing her people to surrender. "This is worse than I thought," Marcus whispered. "They plan to harm your people indirectly without direct confrontation." Lainara's eyes narrowed. "Yes, and that is why we must act carefully. A direct attack would be foolish. We must use strategy to outmaneuver them." Working together, Marcus and Lainara devised a plan. They would redirect the energy fields, creating false signals that would confuse the rival faction's sensors. This would allow a small group of allies to secure key locations without being detected. Marcus felt his heart race. He had never participated in such a complex operation before. But the trust Lainara placed in him made him confident. As they moved to implement the plan, Marcus noticed the rival faction's patrols growing more alert. He carefully adjusted the energy fields, following Lainara's instructions. The plan required precision, patience, and timing. One mistake could expose them. Marcus's hands trembled slightly, but he focused, remembering everything Lainara had taught him about observation and careful action. Finally, the moment came. The false signals were activated, confusing the rival faction. Their patrols moved erratically, trying to locate the source of the interference. Marcus and Lainara led the allies through the openings, quietly securing strategic points within the rival base. Marcus marveled at how seamlessly Lainara coordinated her people, her leadership both firm and inspiring. At one point, a rival scout approached unexpectedly. Marcus froze, unsure what to do. Lainara's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. She whispered a single word in her language, and the scout paused as if hearing a command he could not understand. The scout turned and left, unaware of their presence. Marcus exhaled slowly, amazed by the quiet control Lainara had over the situation. As they reached the central chamber, Marcus and Lainara discovered a concealed device, a small, powerful energy core that the rivals intended to use to disrupt Lainara's territory. Marcus studied the device, noticing its delicate connections and complex design. He realized that tampering with it recklessly could be dangerous. "Let me try," Marcus said, carefully manipulating the controls. Lainara watched silently, trusting him. He worked slowly, using both logic and intuition, remembering how every action could affect the environment around them. After several tense moments, he successfully neutralized the device. The energy core powered down and the threat was averted. Lainara smiled, her eyes reflecting admiration. "Well done, Marcus. You have learned not just to act, but to think. That is true strength." Marcus felt a warm sense of accomplishment. He had not only survived, but had actively contributed to protecting a world far different from his own. More importantly, he had learned the value of patience, observation, and strategy, lessons that would guide him in the challenges to come. As they left the rival base, the sun began to set, casting golden and violet light across the alien landscape. Marcus walked beside Lainara, feeling a sense of unity and purpose. They had faced danger together and had succeeded not by brute force but by understanding and cooperation. "We have achieved much today," Lainara said softly, "but the journey is not over. There are still threats, still challenges that require vigilance and wisdom. Are you ready for what comes next?" Marcus nodded. "I am. I've learned that accidents can lead to opportunities, and that courage must be paired with thought and care. I will face whatever comes with you." Lainara's gaze softened. "Then we move forward together. The future of my people, and perhaps many others, depends on it." That night, as they rested in a secure location, Marcus reflected on the events of the day. He had been a stranger in a strange world, uncertain and cautious. Now he felt a deep connection to this place and to Lainara, the queen whose destiny was intertwined with his own. He understood that his journey had changed him. He was no longer just a human warrior. He was part of something larger, something that required courage, wisdom, and heart. The alien stars shone brightly above, their light reflected in the crystalline forests. Marcus knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he also knew that he had the strength, knowledge, and allyship to face them. The human warrior and the alien queen had become partners not by choice but by destiny, and together, they were ready to shape the future of a world that had once seemed impossibly alien. The morning sun rose over the alien world, casting a soft glow across the crystalline forests and floating islands. Marcus Hale stood beside Lainara, feeling the weight of the day ahead. Today was not just another challenge, it was the moment that would decide the future of her people and, in a way, his own destiny. Lainara's expression was calm yet determined. Marcus had seen her confident in countless situations, But today, there was a quiet intensity that made him understand the gravity of their task. The rival faction had regrouped, and their plan to take control of Linara's territory was more organized and dangerous than before. "We move carefully," Linara said. "Our allies are ready. But the rivals are strong. We must be precise in every action, and trust in each other completely." Marcus nodded, adjusting the equipment he had learned to use over the past days. The alien world had taught him much: how to read energy fields, how to anticipate creatures' movements, and most importantly, how to think ahead. He now felt that he was not just following Linara, but contributing to a shared strategy. Their path led to the heart of the rival faction's base. From a distance, Marcus could see the leaders coordinating their forces, unaware that Marcus and Linara had already outmaneuvered their initial defenses. The human warrior felt a surge of determination. He had learned to act with caution and thought, but now he understood that decisive action was needed to protect the many lives depending on them. Linara turned to him. "Remember, Marcus, strength is not always physical. The greatest power lies in understanding, trust, and timely action." Marcus took a deep breath and nodded. "I understand. Let's do this together." They moved quietly through the terrain, using hidden pathways and natural formations to remain unseen. Marcus marveled at how every movement of Linara and her allies was coordinated, almost like a dance. Each step, each gesture had purpose and meaning. He realized that leadership here was not about command alone, but about harmony, timing, and careful observation. As they reached the central chamber of the rival base, Marcus noticed a device similar to the one they had neutralized before. But this one was larger and more complex. It was designed to disrupt not only the energy systems of Linara's territory, but also to weaken the natural balance of the planet itself. "We cannot allow this to activate," Linara said, her voice steady but urgent. "If it powers up, it could harm many, including those we are trying to protect." Marcus felt his heart race. The task before him required focus, precision, and calm under pressure. He stepped forward, carefully examining the device. Using everything he had learned, he began to manipulate the controls, deactivating its energy source without triggering any alarms. Linara watched silently, trusting him completely. After several tense minutes, the device powered down. A soft glow faded from its surface, and the threat was removed. Marcus exhaled slowly, feeling both relief and pride. "Well done, Marcus," Linara said. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and care. That is why you are more than a visitor. You are part of this world now." Marcus smiled faintly, feeling the weight of her words. He had arrived here by accident, but now he understood that accidents could lead to purpose. He had learned to trust, to observe, and to act wisely. Most importantly, he had formed a bond with Linara that went beyond simple alliance. As they exited the chamber, they encountered the rival leaders. Marcus expected confrontation, but Linara stepped forward calmly. She spoke in her melodic language, her voice both firm and compassionate. The rival leaders paused, sensing her authority and the unity of her people. "You see," Linara said softly to Marcus, "sometimes power is shown not in force, but in presence, clarity, and justice." The rival leaders, realizing they had been outmaneuvered without bloodshed, withdrew their forces. Marcus watched in awe. The lesson was clear: understanding, strategy, and moral strength could overcome even the most dangerous threats. With the rivals retreating, Linara's people celebrated quietly, respecting the victory but knowing the world was still full of challenges. Marcus felt a sense of belonging he had never known. He had started as an outsider, unsure and cautious. Now he was trusted, respected, and connected to this world in a way that changed him forever. As evening fell, Linara and Marcus returned to the Valley of Allies. The sky glowed with shades of violet and gold, and the floating islands reflected the light in patterns that seemed almost magical. Marcus walked beside her, feeling the bond that had grown between them through shared challenges, trust, and mutual respect. "You have changed," Linara said softly, "not just in skill but in heart. You understand more than most humans could ever hope to. You have become part of our story, Marcus." Marcus looked at her, feeling a deep sense of humility. "I never imagined I would be here in this world learning from you and helping your people. But I am glad I am. I've learned so much about courage, trust, and responsibility, and about friendship that crosses worlds," Linara smiled. Destiny often brings people together in ways they cannot foresee. You arrived by accident, yes, but perhaps it was never an accident at all. Perhaps this was meant to be. That night, as they rested under the glow of the twin moons, Marcus reflected on his journey. From the moment his ship had been pulled into the wormhole, his life had changed in ways he could never have imagined. He had faced strange creatures, learned alien ways, earned trust, and helped prevent disaster. But more than that, he had discovered the value of understanding, patience, and cooperation. He realized that destiny was not simply a matter of chance. It was shaped by the choices he made, the trust he earned, and the bonds he formed. By accident, he had become entwined with the alien queen's destiny, but by courage and care he had earned a place beside her. As the stars shone above, reflecting in the crystalline forests, Marcus understood that the journey was far from over. There would be new challenges, new threats, and new opportunities. But he no longer faced them alone. Linara was his ally, his teacher, and a companion whose guidance had changed his understanding of strength and courage. Together, they looked toward the future, knowing that the fate of a world, and perhaps many others, rested in part upon their choices. Marcus felt a quiet confidence. He had arrived by accident, but he would continue this journey with purpose, wisdom, and heart. In the end, the human warrior and the alien queen had become partners, not by choice, but by destiny. And in their partnership they found strength, hope, and the knowledge that even the most unexpected journeys could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Marcus Hale closed his eyes for the night, feeling a sense of peace he had never known. The alien world was no longer strange. It was home in a sense he had never imagined. And he knew deep inside that whatever came next, he would face it with courage, understanding, and the alien queen by his side. The adventure that began by accident had transformed into a story of trust, bravery, and connection across worlds. And as the moons rose high and the crystalline trees shimmered softly, Marcus knew that destiny was not only about the path you walk, but also about the companions you choose and the choices you make along the way.